Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in and welcome to the premiere of my pre-recorded senior flute recital. I chose to do a pre-recorded recital due to some of the restrictions that are still in place due to COVID, and I also thought it would be a really great challenge and opportunity to produce a set of visually engaging recordings that my friends and family could enjoy all across the United States. This program is titled Electronics and Elusions, and that's because my criteria for choosing these pieces was that they are written for flute and electronics, that they're written by living composers, or that they're pieces in which there are very few, or in some cases no, recordings already available. I really strive to create a program that consisted of a variety of composer backgrounds and different musical inspirations, and I hope that over the course of this program I'm able to introduce you to at least one composer you didn't know about already, and if you're interested in playing any of these pieces or learning more about these composers, almost all of their websites and where to buy their pieces are linked in the description box below. I do want to thank Stewart, who recorded all of the audio you'll hear today, as well as Brendan Bent with Kaizer Studios and James Hamilton Photography, who filmed video. Piece-specific credits and contact information are also noted in the description box, so if you're interested in working with any of them, which I highly suggest, you can find where to contact them below. And to you three, you really helped me bring this project to life, and I cannot thank you enough for your time and your talent and willingness to work with me during this time. All of the recordings you'll hear today were recorded at the location you see them, and some of these are outside, so there is some wind and street noise in these recordings. Some of those locations include the Rocky Mount Imperial Center, the train station, the McIver parking deck, as well as some more familiar places around UNCG's School of Music. The first piece on the program is El Amolador by Adina Izarra, who was born in Venezuela and currently teaches at Simón Bolívar University. She frequently writes works for flute and guitar and says that she's inspired by the sounds of nature and the sounds of vendors on Caracas streets, like that El Amolador is based on. El Amolador translates to the knife grinder, who's a traveling vendor that sharpens people's dull knives and announces his presence with a small, high-pitched flute. It can be neon in color, and it kind of looks like a pan flute. And this piece imitates the sound of that instrument and the Amolador call, which Izarra takes through different variations and ultimately ends with the Amolador's call fading out in repetition as I imagine they're traveling down to another street. I chose this piece because Izarra is so effective in creating the image of the Amolador and is able to play with meter and rhythm in a way that creates a lot of musical interest.
This next piece I've titled Because of Her, and it's an original composition for flute and looper pedal. Last year I was selected as one of UNCG's Artists in Residence, and this piece is my product of that year-long program. I was inspired to write this piece after the passing of Doria Dwyer in March of last year, who had become one of the first women to hold a principal position in a major American orchestra, and the first flute player to do so when she became the principal of the Boston Symphony in 1952. Before her, it was really uncommon to find women in these principal positions. Only one woman had done it before Dwyer, and this is due to orchestral and behavioral practices that date back to the 18th century, where men could a little more easily pursue a career in music, but women were generally only taught enough to entertain at parties. To write this piece, I borrowed interesting or notable fragments and melodies from pieces dedicated to or premiered by Dwyer, which include Halil by Leonard Bernstein, Serenade for Four Flutes by Ingolf Dahl, and Concerto for Flute and Orchestra by Ellentov Zweilich. I really love being able to create this piece, and I do want to thank the Artist in Residence program for giving me the opportunity to do so. I was able to learn so much about Dwyer and the history of women in music and just baseline how looper pedals work, so I hope you enjoy what I created.
The next piece on the program is Falling Skyward by Andre Myers, who is currently teaching piano, composition, and theory at the University of Redlands. He wrote Falling Skyward in 2001 for the Students of Color at Rockham Academic Conference in response to that year's conference theme of claiming space. Specifically, he wanted to explore how he could musically portray the challenging narratives that people of color can experience in academia. About the piece, Meyer says, "What I came up with is a 6-minute composition in 3 parts. The first juxtaposes 2 different spheres of registral activity, one high and strident, another low and sensuous. The second part contrasts different types of melodic material, one lyrical, the other more angular. The final section blends the first 2 parts together into some semblance of integration with the hope that, despite differences in musical style, Falling Skyward can carry contradiction and disagreement in a way that models strength, harmony, and repose." The last piece you heard is called Crazy by Nathalie Joachim, and it's written for 2 flutes and electronics, so I was playing with fellow graduating senior flutist Carolina Herrera. Joachim currently plays in the flute duo Flutronics with Alison Loggins Hull, and also frequently writes for interdisciplinary art settings. She holds degrees in flute and sound design, which I think is really evident in the composition of that piece. The next piece on the program is titled Diptyque, and it was written by Jeanine Rueff. The title, Diptyque, means a work in 2 parts, which you'll see is really evident in the contrasting themes of this piece. It was written in 1954, making it the oldest piece on this program and the only piece by a non-living composer. Apart from Rueff's published works and her employment history, there isn't a lot of information about her, but we know that she was a French composer who studied and later taught at the Paris Conservatory. Her rep is a little bit more common in the saxophone world, but I'm also super happy to bring this piece to light a little bit more. It's out of print now, but I was introduced to it 4 years ago by my high school flute instructor, Beth Kupsko, and I'm excited to finally be able to perform it with pianist Suzanne Polak. The next piece I'll be playing is titled I Will Not Be Sad in This World by Beglarian, and it's written for alto or bass flute and electronics track. It's based on an 18th century Armenian troubadour song by Sayat Nova, and the full title is I Will Not Be Sad in This World as Long as I Have You. It's often played on the Diptyque, a double reed instrument that dates back to at least the 5th century, and there are different versions of the Diptyque that differ between different regions, but in the Armenian practice it's usually played in pairs with one person playing a drone and the other playing the melody. And that practice is emulated in Beglarian's piece, but she also adds to her arrangement by recording multiple lines using her voice. Aside from the incredible interplay and timbre that Beglarian achieves in this piece, I was also really struck by the sentiment of I will not be sad in this world, especially considering the context of what this world has been recently, and I have definitely turned it into a sort of mantra for myself, and I hope that you can use the next several minutes of the performance of this piece to think about your own moments of happiness, your milestones, or just a general reflection of what you're proud of over this past year. This next piece is titled Six Variations on a Pende Tune, and it was written by Fred Onwuasik, who founded what would eventually become the Intercultural Music Initiative. He grew up in Ghana, Nigeria, and the United States, and says that his music is inspired by, quote, my travels around the world, and each piece is harnessed and nurtured by an African sensibility that is unmistakable and genuine, unquote. Six Variations on a Pende Tune is inspired specifically by the images, dances, and wildlife found by the Zambezi River in South Africa, and is published as a set of pieces compiled by flutist Wendy Himes. I wanted to play this piece because Onwuasik's variations are really creative and challenging, especially in that they're not quite as strict of variations as what we're typically used to in this form. Before our last piece, I want to give some acknowledgements and thanks to the many people that have helped me during my time here at UNCG. First, of course, being my family, who have supported me in all my aspirations, listened to me play the flute probably more than anybody in the world, and given me everything I've ever needed to make it this far. I also want to thank Dr. Boyson, who has supported all of my extra endeavors, who's always told me to go for it, written a lot of recommendation letters, and helped me grow so much musically and emotionally over these past 4 years. I want to thank Professor Graneman and Dr. Mewich, who helped steer me in the right direction every semester, the Flute Studio and Mu Phi Epsilon for your constant support and friendship, and Carolina, Suzanne, Alex, Brandon, and James for your individual roles in this recital. I'm super excited to say I'll be attending Boston University next year to continue studying the flute, and I couldn't have done it without all of your help. Our last piece is Kings of the Sky by Melissa Keeling, who's a composer, educator, and electronic flutist. She's released 3 albums for flute and electronics, with Kings of the Sky being featured on her 2018 album Supersonic. It's written for looper pedal and electronic flute and is paired with a poem from Keeling about monarch butterflies. When I first listened to this piece, I was really struck by how much pure fun it communicates, and paired with the fact that it was written for flute and looper, I knew I had to include this one on my senior recital. I'll be playing a transcription of Keeling's original improvisation, and I hope you enjoy our last piece, Kings of the Sky.